montage when he's up in Siberia training with the long hair and the beard. So that's what we got for now, but we'll clean it up a little bit as the season gets closer.
It is early, but opening day of practice is pretty fun. It's pretty neat to be out here.
Yeah, opening day is just a phrase that's great for any baseball player or fan. You got a clean slate. Typically the sun's out, and we're lucky enough today it is, and you have a fresh start and a lot of new thoughts in your head about what are some positives that can happen for you and for the team.
Tony, you haven't had these guys very long, but what's impressed you so far? What do you like about this group so far?
Their response level. If we ask them to do something, they do it. If they're challenged one day, the next day you see a result. So now you would like to minimize the amount of times you have to challenge your team, and some of the upperclassmen take initiative and be on top of things to begin with. But the bottom line is this is a sport that calls for you to be able to react to all kinds of adverse circumstances or new challenges, and they've shown the ability to respond.
The guys to a man have talked about the change of culture, working hard but still having some fun along the way.
Yeah, you got to have some fun. I mean, baseball is full of different superstitions and practical jokes and things like that. But we always kind of say you got to eat your meat and potatoes before you have your dessert. So the work has got to be put in on the front end for you to have the confidence, to have a little bit of leeway to have some fun. And then two, nothing's more fun than winning. So if you do put in that preparation and that hard work, you'd like to think there's going to be some fun times in the locker room post-game.
I asked a couple of the guys this, having guys like Helton, who came in last year, and JPR and CBA is back, that have been associated with the program for a long time. What does it mean to have them around these fellas?
Tremendous mentors, and they can give those guys things that I never could. And Coach Kiven and Coach Elander are that on our staff to an extent as well. They both play pro ball, and they were the three-hole hitter in the lineup that the other team had a massive scouting report on. I was never that guy, so I can give them a few insights from my experience of being a college coach. But just those two guys are impressive to have around. It's great to get their autographs, but they really round out our staff well. We have a lot of different things that our kids can benefit from with our whole staff.
What's it been like getting to know Coach Fulmer?
Tremendous. Now, I got to know him before he even got the job and kind of let him know I was a fan back in the day, and that also with him being on campus, he'd be a great resource to kind of educate me on what are some things you would do differently, would do the same as a younger head coach. And we've hit on that. We didn't have one big sit down because he's been as busy as anybody, but we've met a few times, and he's been great to me. And I know he'll be sitting in the porch out there in left field during a lot of our games.
Did Todd give you any insight on him before you met him?
Yeah, he gave me a scouting report a little bit. I've heard a lot of Todd Helton football stories that are pretty comedic, and it's mind-blowing that he was talented enough to do those two things. That whole idea has gone away. But no, a lot of people have given me insight to Coach Fulmer before I met him, and a lot of those truisms, I've kind of experienced myself.
Why do you think there's not more dual sport, including baseball and football these days?
I think it's become a culture thing where these kids are convinced they have to single out what they want to do and go 100% full bore in doing that. And I hate to get on a tangent on how to parent or how to coach, but I think that's a negative. I think the more you're in competitive circumstances and challenging your body in different ways, being sore playing basketball is way different than being sore playing, football or baseball. So it's gone away, but our athletes today are specializing and becoming a little more advanced at a younger age. So there's pros and cons, but I just think it's a mental thing that you have to channel all your energy into one thing. And it's why you see a lot of two-way guys on our field that can pitch and hit. They quit before the coach even says you can no longer do one or the other. They kind of do it to themselves.
What can be the strength of this team?
The pitching. I definitely think the pitching. I would rank the hitting second, the defense is third. And that's a challenge we make to our team every day, because the one thing you'd like to have as your rock is the defense. Because there's no doubt there'll be days that the pitching struggles a little bit, and maybe just the wind's blowing out, and there'll be struggles and ups and downs for the offense as well. But the defense is something that can be your rock. So we've kind of put that in front of them because it is our weakest area right now, but it certainly can be shored up when we put our best nine out there. But we want them to take on the mentality that needs to overcome and be the kind of the rock that we have every day when we come to the park. Because I'm not a big, if we lose 10-6, the pitchers did a bad job, and if we lose 2-1, it was all the hitters' fault. There's a kind of a flow to the game, as you guys have seen, whether it's pro ball or college, and you win as a team and you lose as a team.
What have you guys done to help Andre with the transition from first to short?
Massive amount of reps. And he's a guy, you know, we've given him a lot of feedback, but he's a guy that loves to ask questions, to add insight, and really just have familiarity of what is trying to be coached to him or instructed to him. So he's a great learner. He's incredibly intelligent in the classroom. He and his brother are doing engineering stuff. I ask him about class, and I get lost within 30 seconds. So, but reps are the key. This is it's the father of learning is repetition, and it's a game where that probably holds true as much as any. So we've really done that. We've also videoed. Sean McCann's our new video coordinator. That room is right behind the weight room, and our guys are in there almost every day. So being able to visualize some of those things after being out here and doing them, I think has really helped them as well.
You only have a handful of upperclassmen on this team. I assume some freshmen are going to have to play. Anybody in that group that's starting to stick out to you that you can depend on right out of the gates against Maryland?
You know, position player-wise, Zach Daniels and Brandon Trammell are making it awful difficult for us to keep our original lineup we thought we would have, because to be frank, they weren't in it. But that was the fall, and this is now. So everyone has a pole position, but those two guys, if they were race cars, they're kind of going ahead and then maybe a little bit behind, then even. So it's fun to have that competitiveness. But those two guys need to mature and show that they can handle baseball at this level, and again, the ups and downs that come with it. But they're going to be superstars on the position side. And there's a couple others that have made strides as well, but those two stand out. You know, Wyatt Stapp, it comes from Texas, where you play baseball nonstop, and he's got a little bit of savvy to him at third base, and he came back stronger. That's really what he needed. So while he was in a good position to play for us every day, I think he improved that position, or solidified it, if you want to say that. And on the mound, you know, we didn't have Chase Wallace in the fall, and he's kind of an X factor. He's got a really good breaking ball, and kind of seems to have the confidence that you want in a guy every day. I joked with him in the office one day, I don't think I scare you too much, do I, Chase? And he said, no, you don't scare me. So you want him to respect you a little bit and obey the team rules and all that good stuff, but you don't want a guy that's intimidated by anything, whether it's a coach or an opponent. And he has that knack, so maybe he can take on a big-time role for us if he's throwing it over the pot. And, you know, Josh Plummer is a guy that's come out of nowhere as well. Bottom of the depth chart as it related to the fall, and a couple days ago threw some of the most dynamic pitches we've had on our field here. So it's just pointing out a few, but you said it. It's a young team, and those guys are going to have to form collectively as a group, the freshmen, a strong part of this team.
From a leadership standpoint, what does it mean to have guys like Brody and Benito back to help lead these guys?
It's tremendous, and you'd like to set up your culture, you know, the way you want, so that 3 or 4 years from now, you're actually coaching less, and the upperclassmen are doing some of the coaching. But they've learned quickly, and they've kind of taken the baton in a lot of different areas, and then said to the guys, "This is how we're going to do it." And I think that's going to continue to evolve as they, you know, get educated by us on what we're looking for. And then we've met with those guys, and it's a group of about 6. It varies sometimes, of quote-unquote leaders. And we have those meetings, and I know a guy like Tony LaRussa used to have with his leadership council, is what he called it, and hope they pass the message on. Because a freshman's going to listen to Brody more than he is me. I don't care, you know, how well I state it. You know how it is. The peer thing is incredibly important as it relates to feedback and instruction.
You see a potential ace on the starting pitching staff?
You know, I think the whole staff, whether it's bullpen or starters, the theme seems to be a lot of usable arms. And that's a compliment. A lot of guys that you could see pitching against South Carolina, LSU, or any other SEC opponent. Now, the other thing is that this could turn into a negative or a positive. They're all kind of muddled up in one group, and everyone's got different strengths. Stallings has experience, reliability. Will Neely has flashes of brilliance. Lingenfelter has the stuff that's closest to being a big leaguer. You know, Daniel Vasquez had an incredible summer and seems to always be the most consistent guy you get. So there's many others you could throw in the mix too. So I hate to not give you the juicy answer of this guy's going to be throwing the ball Friday night against Maryland, or it'll be in the afternoon due to the temperatures. But there's a lot of guys that I think are going to toe the rubber. And by May, you want to lean on your best 7 or 8.
On the back end, do you have anyone picked out now to be the stopper? And if you have someone, will that be a 2-inning guy like we're seeing bullpenning on the big league level, or are you going to be a 3-out guy?
I think Coach Anderson and I see a lot of things eye to eye, so we'll work on that. Ultimately, he kind of heads up the pitching staff, and I know he's not shy about using a guy for a couple innings. It's different than the big leagues. And you've got some guys like Will Heflin. You know, Wallace was obviously a starter in high school. A guy like Plummer is just huge. Trammell's been on the mound for us too. His body can withstand a lot of innings pitched over the course of the spring. So I don't think we're going to limit ourselves to that, but maybe ideal situation I'd like to have when I'm recruiting is have a 7th, 8th, and 9th inning guy like the Royals had when Luke won a World Series, where you can go out there and just give a guy a simple assignment and he can kind of wow the other team with a quick, short burst outing. And then you move on to the next guy, and they're kind of frustrated, like how many of these guys I got down there.
How vocal is this team even within scrimmage game type of settings? Do they communicate like even close to the way you want?
They've been better. I would give it a 6 out of 10 if we're going to go there. And they've come from about a 3 or a 4. We've brought up Joe Madden, just kind of bringing out the personality of a lot of those Cubs guys when they won the World Series, and you could see it when they played on the field. This is a game where you have to be very comfortable in your own skin. And, they're just a little too quiet. We even have a group meet chat that you don't want them chiming in too much, but, if someone throws out a jab at somebody, you'd like to see the other guys kind of jump in and maybe take one side or the other. Just have fun with it. And they've developed a little bit more of a personality. And that's what we've encouraged them to do, because you can call yourself a blue-collar team, or we're going to be this, we're going to be aggressive, or this or that, but words don't really mean anything. By the end of the weekend, you guys will start to formulate your opinion how we played against Maryland, and they'll be doing the same thing. And that image is more created than it is stated.
How do you bring out that personality? Do you do any of those Joe Madden type things, themed road trips or anything like that?
I'm not a surfer, or I think he's got an RV or a van he lives in or something like that. I'm not quite that quirky, but do like to encourage the guys to, bring some energy. If you got something to say, don't be afraid to say it. When we do have team meetings, we address serious things like yesterday was an off day. Off days are important. You have to put yourself in a position, whether it's rest or training room or get on the tee yourself. So it was a serious issue that we addressed in a meeting prior to that off day, but, we threw out some lighthearted comments and teased a couple of the guys. So we're getting there. And that's something, with road trips and bus movies and, maybe dumping some water on a guy after a walk-off hit, or, other things that I probably shouldn't say on camera that could go on in the locker room. Those things evolve as time goes on. So we're at the beginning right now, day one.
Not gonna bring out the Hawaiian shirts in the winter then?
Yeah, you never know. You never know. I actually have a 2-bedroom apartment, and one closet is normal clothes, and the other closet is half dress clothes, half stuff that I'll never let you guys see me in.
I know Jordan Rogers has been around a little bit. Who are some of the guys that have come back to work out with your team before they head off pro ball?
Yeah, those guys are in there now. I walked in there and the music is deafening. Coach Elander's in there with him. He's probably the strongest guy on campus. But, Rogers has been here every day. Kyle Serrano's been working out, and Dave's been very appreciative of that. Will Maddox has been here. He's an incredible player. Jan was here for a while and now I think has moved on. Luke's been around, so it's been a long list. Kristen Stewart's been around, and that guy's just gotten even bigger and stronger, so it'll be exciting to see how quickly he makes it to the big leagues, because it's happening. And probably the guy who logged the most hours here is Nick Senzel. He's in the weight room too much, and I don't know that I've ever said that about anybody. And on top of that, he's out on the field and in the cages, and he's since departed too. And Andrew Lee's healthy now too, which is great to see, and our facilities have helped him do that.
How special is that group for this freshman class to see the expectation at Tennessee and the SEC and what it can be if you do things right?
I think it reinforced what we tried to educate our guys on in the fall, that there is a tradition here. And kids nowadays with their smartphones and iTunes, they're just kind of thinking up to the very last minute or what happened 30 seconds ago, and that's about it. But there's a strong tradition here, and the tradition has continued, to be honest with you. I mean, when you have a guy that goes second overall in the draft, but it just hasn't been team success as it relates to tradition. So I think it's been good for those guys to emphasize that you can accomplish your goals here, and then also here's how we go about our business in pro ball. It's a job. And these are the things you have to do. So there's been a lot of benefits, and we want to kind of encourage that culture. We've even built a new locker room for those guys that isn't completely done, but we want to house those guys here and have them around as much as possible. So I think that whole idea is going to blossom.
A couple more guys. You mentioned earlier superstitions being a fun part of baseball. What are a couple of the bigger ones that you follow?
They're fun as long as you're winning. But, for me, I try to not get too stuck into one thing or the other. But I do have a moment I take in the locker room before each game to do 2 or 3 things. And then I have a routine when I get to the office every morning. But on the field, I kind of had my own quirks. I remember Texas Tech fans ragging me about my walking me through every little thing I did in between pitches as a hitter. But as a coach, I think I've been a little more relaxed. I guess I'll tip my hand and tell you the one that sticks out is if I'm a little angered, I'll go down to the water cooler and get a drink and then probably throw the cup. So if you guys want to sit above the third base dugout and figure out when I'm pissed off and when I'm not, you can kind of read that.
You've worked with Scherzer, you've worked with a lot of good arms. Do you think that resonates with these pitchers, with the staff, the fact some of the arms you've worked with over the years?
I think so. I think it maybe just makes them a little more likely to listen. And what's nice, I think more than anything, is they're inquisitive. And what was this guy like, or what did this guy do, or when he was my age, what was he doing? So I think the questions that come from them is probably the biggest benefit. But, Coach Anderson's got a son that grew up in his house and became a big leaguer. And we actually have a book, and it's a book printed off of all the guys that have been drafted that Coach Anderson has coached. And we show that to recruits, and it's pretty impressive. So he's the daddy of the pitching staff, and I think he can provide that as much as I can.
One more, guys.
Is anybody forced to the front on the depth chart on the infield other than Andre?
Brandon Cheneas brings to the table 100% effort every day long and all day, every day. And I think right now he's looking to be the favorite at second base. Wyatt Stapp was the favorite after the fall at third. But I'd say at all three of those positions, Alex Sosnowski's kind of come out of nowhere and really came back stronger and just better in all areas and seems to be a man on a mission. So even if he's not in the starting lineup, he's making us better right now because he's pushing those other guys. And you kind of want your guys to be a little nervous and looking over their shoulder. And at first base, Luke seemed to be the guy after the fall, but again, Brandon Trammell, I think, is really taken to our coaching staff, and obviously he has a strong baseball background to begin with. So I think the combination has put him in a great spot right now to play at some point, whether it be over there or on the mound, DH, and then another guy just to kind of take it a step further into the outfield. We kind of thought we knew who our three outfielders were with Jay and Brody and Ammo, but Zach Daniels has been the most impressive guy we've had here since January.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.